Hey everybody, and welcome to the weekly scopes from the 14th to the 20th of September. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic Constellational Astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic Constellational Astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs and the Western signs shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees, 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year, and Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates, so every year, regardless of where the sun actually is at the sky, the sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the sun and the moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra-parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So declination in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination. Either both planets are on the north side side, or either both planets are on the south side, and this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets. So it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contra-parallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contra-parallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between the opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contra-parallels happen, they can sort of like trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts, and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contra-parallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contra-parallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contra-parallels just kind of like provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contra-parallels and parallels are. So this week we have a few aspects ruling us, if you want to see it like that. So the first aspect watching over us this week is Mercury's contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node. Mercury's in Leo and the Moon's North Node is in Aquarius. Then we've got Sun making contra-parallel to Saturn, and Saturn's in Pisces and the Sun's in Leo. And this entered on the 10th of September, is exact on the 15th of September at 6:53 p.m. and leaves us on the 20th of September. And Mercury's contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node is exact on the 11th of September at 2 a.m. and leaves us on the 16th of September. And then we've got Mercury making a contra-parallel to Saturn, and this is exact at 10:38 on the 16th of September. It entered on the 14th of September and leaves on the 18th. And we've got the Sun making a parallel to Mercury, and this is exact on the 17th of September at 2:48 a.m. It entered on the 12th of September and leaves us on the 22nd. And this happens when the Sun's in Virgo and Mercury's in Virgo as well. We have Mercury making a contra-parallel to Neptune, and this entered on the 16th of September, is exact at 6:15 p.m. on the 18th of September and leaves us on the 21st of September. And then we've got Mars making a contra-parallel to Chiron on the 19th of September. It entered on the 11th and leaves us on the 26th. And then we've got the Sun making a contra-parallel to Neptune on the 20th of September. This entered on the 15th and leaves us on the 25th of September. So as I said, a lot going on this week, whereas last week we just had one aspect, right? So ultimately, this week's aspects are a proper entanglement of the mind, calling us to use our logic to take responsibility, and also with the Neptune energy, right, bringing that surreal, psychic, subconscious, spiritual energy. So we can sort of like feel a sense of push and pull between logic and intuition this week, structure, systems, routine and surrender, So ultimately, Mercury's contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node, which is exact on the 14th of September, is when Mercury, our mind communication in Leo, faces off with the North Node, which is our destiny and soul path in Aquarius, and this is a classic head versus higher calling, sort of like expect crossroad times in conversations and decisions. The Sun's contra-parallel to Saturn, which is the Sun, which is our identity and will, in Leo opposes Saturn, which is our limits, restrictions and discipline. In Pisces, this is the grown up in the room, demanding that we get serious this week about our commitments and responsibilities. And Mercury's contra-parallel to Saturn wants us to and helps us to sort of like take life more serious. Our thoughts can become more serious and even a bit heavy, you know, a bit emotionally cold or a bit pessimistic as well. But, you know, ultimately this energy wants us to carefully plan this week, not just widely speculate or waste our energy. It wants us to use routines or stick to our routines this week or make new routines. The Sun's parallel to Mercury increases our focus and makes it easier to get our points across, and it also can keep us sort of like less anxious this week, and our nerves can be steadier, you know, as we feel less stressed and anxious. Mercury's contra-parallel to Neptune adds like foggy brain to this week, you know, so we have to watch out for overindulging in drugs, alcohol, hookups and anything else that's intoxicating to you in excess. Can add confusion to our lives. We may want to ignore the red flags and just jump into the red flags, and people may manipulate us or we may manipulate others. It adds to the daydreaming, confusing energy of the week, and as I said, things can be really deceptive this week because of this energy, so fact check, you know. And Mars' contra-parallel to Chiron is when Mars, you know, our action, our motivation in Libra faces Chiron, the wounded healing Aries. So old psychological, emotional, spiritual wounds can flare up, you know, especially, you know, any wounds or trauma you've got around being assertive or being fair or being taken advantage of. And the Sun's contra-parallel to Neptune adds to that illusionary Neptune energy this week, you know, blurring the lines between reality and fantasy. It's great for spiritual insight, but we also have to keep our feet on the ground, you know. So hopefully we've got some grounding energy this week as well, influencing us. So positively, this week's energy allows for breakthroughs in self-understanding. The Sun and Mercury in Virgo, which is that grounded energy I said that we needed, right, can help us see ourselves and life more clearly. We can have support from unseen forces, you know, so it's a great energy to trust our gut and look for synchronicities. We can have opportunities for reinvention, so it helps us to try something new, especially in how we present ourselves. And the Sun's parallel to Mercury increases our mind and speaking ability, so it's great for writing, teaching, speaking and negotiations. The North Node brings guidance from our roots or family, generational knowledge, so we may remember something that a grandparent or some other family member or friend said that can help us this week to overcome obstacles. Mars' contra-parallel to Chiron allows us to confront long-standing issues around leadership and assertiveness, and the Sun and Mercury's aspects to Neptune open the door to intuition, dreams and creative inspiration. Saturn's influence helps us make choices that stand the test of time, but negatively, this week's transits can make it hard to separate fact from fiction and fantasy, you know, and we can have a lot of confusion and mental fog, as I said, and this can make us feel like we're being pulled in opposite directions. And the multiple contra-parallels, which are oppositions, right, create a sense of being at crossroads, which kind of tacks on to last week's energy, you know. Last week we just had one major aspect, Sun's contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node, and this was all about, you know, destiny and making choices, right? So this week also carries on that theme, but brings new themes as well. And we've got Saturn and the North Node that can bring up generational dysfunction and pain and, things that happen in our childhood and karmic issues as well. There can be communication breakdowns, as we can be overly pessimistic and critical this week, and Neptune and the suns touching each other can blur our boundaries, making us more vulnerable to other moods and problems, and we can just have clashes with authority because of Mars's Chiron energy that can trigger power struggles or wounds around leadership, so we have to make sure that we just own our own emotions and not take on too much, and try and be there for others but also be there for yourself as well. We can have feeling really overwhelmed from pressure on our energy and demands on our time as well. We can feel like everyone wants a piece of us this week, and certainly these aspects, we've got loads, right? So we've got about 5 to 7 aspects all wanting different things from us, right? And Neptune's fog can really make us second guess ourselves, so we can have difficulty trusting our own judgment this week, So the best way to work with this week's energy is to stay grounded. When in doubt, come back to your breath, your body and the present time. Fact check. Don't take everything at face value. Verify information before repeating it and acting on it. Honor your roots. Listen to family stories, ancestral wisdom, or your past experiences. Trust your own lessons that you can learn from your own past experiences. Be open to change. Don't be afraid to reinvent yourself or try a new approach. Set boundaries, especially because of Neptune's influence, right? Protect your energy from emotional and other vampires, right? Look for guidance, whether from mentors, elders, or your own intuition. Don't go it alone this week. Dream big. Make sure your plans are realistic though. Balance idealism with practicality and confront old wounds. Use Mars Chiron energy to heal and not to reopen old battles, but just to heal them, to understand them, to move on from them. So now I'm going to talk about this week's mystical relationship tea, and the practical application. So in terms of career and business, this is a week for reviewing your long-term goals and making sure your daily actions align with your bigger vision. Saturn's influence means bosses and deadlines are watching, so don't cut corners. Mercury's aspects favour careful planning, editing and strategic communication. So if you're in a creative field, use Neptune's energy for inspiration, but double check the details. In terms of our friendships, old friends or mentors may, reappear in your life, offering advice or support. Be open to group wisdom, but don't get lost in the crowd. If misunderstandings come up, which they can because there's a lot of Neptune energy, right? Clarify your intentions. In terms of our romantic relationships, boundaries are key. Neptune's influence can make you see your partner through rose-tinted glasses, so check in with reality. Honest conversations, even if tough, will strengthen relationships. If you're single, ancestral patterns around love can come up. Notice them, don't repeat them. In terms of self-partnership, this is a brilliant week for journaling, therapy or spiritual practice. The angels bringing protection symbolises you're being supported even if you feel alone. Use the Sun-Mercury connection this week and energy to set new intentions for self-growth. So the best use of this week's energy in terms of actions to take: journal about your family patterns. What family stories are shaping your choices, you can ask yourself. Have a heart-to-heart with an elder person or mentor. Fact-check important decisions. Don't rely on assumptions. Ask the questions. Don't ignore those red flags either. Try out a new routine. Be open to, starting new things. Set clear boundaries with anyone draining your energy. Schedule time for spiritual practice, whether that be prayer, meditation, or self-reflection, or self-care. Confront old wounds. And remember that they're looking for healing, not blame, Edit or revise important documents, because Mercury and Saturn's energy favours this. Balance work and play, you know, and rest. Don't let Saturn pressure burn you out, and trust your intuition and verify facts, especially on the 18th of this week. So in terms of the psychological meaning, this week is a classic integration period. Your heart, mind and soul are all being pulled in different directions, but the goal is to find a new sort of synthesis, you know, a new togetherness, a new balance. And the tension between old patterns, which is represented by Saturn and the North Node, and new beginnings, which are represented by the Sun and Mercury, can make you feel uncomfortable, but it's how real growth happens. Karmically, we're being asked to break cycles that run in your family and soul lineage for generations. So this is your chance to choose different choices than people in your family that's come before you. In terms of the spiritual meaning, the veil is thin this week, so dreams, synchronicities and intuitive flashes are all increased, and the angels bring in protection. Symbol is a reminder that you're not alone. Ask for help and it will come. It may not come in the way that you expect it, but it will come. On the 14th of September, Mercury's contra-parallel to the North Node brings crossroads in our communication and puts the spotlight on our authentic path, you know. The Sun's contra-parallel to Saturn wants us to take responsibility and have reality checks, you know, check the facts, check your routines. Are what you're doing daily really going to make you achieve your goals? A lot of the time we have goals, but our daily habits stop us from our goals. If you are up to 4 a.m. each morning and you know, are always late to work and you don't have time to work on your passion projects, how are you going to realize that dream of owning your own business one day, you know? So just get real about what it takes to make your goals your reality. On the 16th of September, Mercury's contra-parallel to Saturn brings serious conversations. It requires us to do careful planning and gives us the energy to do so. On the 17th of September, the Sun's parallel to Mercury increases our focus and clarity, you know. On the 18th of September, we have to watch out for confusion more than any other day this week. Double check our facts and all of that, you know. On the 19th of September, it's a great day for healing old wounds, especially around action and leadership. On the 20th of September, the Sun's contra-parallel to Neptune brings spiritual insights, but also adds to the risk of us escaping from our responsibility, right? So this week, it starts with a mental crossroads. It builds to a peak of responsibility and clarity, then dissolves into a dreamy, healing and slightly surreal weekend. Each day brings a new flavour. Don't expect things to stay the same this week for too long. This week the universe is asking us to balance our head and our heart, our past and our future, our dreams and our responsibilities. Trust that you're being supported even when things feel uncertain or hard and obstacles just keep on coming, you know. Keep your head up, as Tupac sang, you know, and remember that growth comes from integrating all parts of yourself, not choosing one over the other. So in terms of questions to ask yourself this week, you can ask, where am I repeating old patterns and how can I choose differently this week? What does Mercury's contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node mean this week for my communication and life direction? How can I balance my dreams with my responsibilities in a way that feels authentic? So now I'm just going to talk about, you know, the advice for the 12 Sun, Moon and Rising signs. So Aries, this week, old wounds around leadership or assertiveness may surface. Use Mars's Chiron energy not to fight but to speak your own truth and heal with that energy, you know, and listen to any ancestral wisdom before acting this week. That's really important for you guys. Taurus, Saturn's influence asks you to get serious about your long-term goals. Don't rush decisions. Steady progress is your true friend. Trust your intuition but check the facts. Gemini, Communication is a superpower, but Mercury connection to Neptune this week can make things foggy, so double check details and avoid gossip. And this week an important question for you to ask is, are you looking for clarity in conversations or gossip? Cancer, family patterns may come up for review. Honour your roots, but don't let the past dictate your future. Set boundaries with anyone who drains your energy. Leo, with Mercury and the Sun's starting the week off in your sign, you're in the spotlight. Use your voice for positive change, but be open to feedback from mentors or elders. Virgo, this is your week for clarity and focus, especially around the 17th. Use your analytical skills to cut through confusion, but don't get bogged down in perfectionism. Libra, Mars in your sign gives you motivation, but Chiron may trigger old wounds, so ask yourself, are you looking for balance in relationships? And don't be afraid to ask for help. Scorpio, deep healing is possible, especially around power struggles. Use your insight to transform old patterns, but avoid getting stuck in the past. Sagittarius, Saturn asks you to get real about your dreams. Make a plan, set boundaries, and don't let wishful thinking lead you astray. Capricorn, career and responsibility are heightened. Saturn rewards your hard work, but don't neglect your spiritual or emotional needs. The North Node in your sign brings destiny times. Listen to ancestral wisdom and be open to new directions, even if they feel unfamiliar. Pisces, Neptune's influence is strong. Trust your intuition, but stay grounded. Creative inspiration is high, but so is the risk of confusion. Rest and recharge is needed. So in terms of mantras for this week, Aries, your mantra can be, I heal old wounds by leading with courage and compassion. My actions are guided by wisdom from the past. Taurus, I build my dreams on a foundation of patience and truth. Each step I take is steady and sure. Gemini, I speak with clarity and kindness, checking facts before I act. My words create bridges, not barriers. Cancer, I honour my roots while creating my own path. My boundaries protect my heart and nurture my growth. Leo, I shine my light with confidence and humility. Feedback from others helps me grow stronger. Virgo, I trust my mind to cut through confusion. My focus brings order and peace to my world. Libra, I balance action with reflection. Healing old hurts as I move forward. Support is always within reach. Scorpio, I transform pain into wisdom, letting go of what no longer serves. My insight is my power. Sagittarius, I ground my dreams in reality, making plans that honour both my vision and limits. Capricorn, I work with discipline and heart, building a legacy that lasts. My spirit is as strong as my ambition. Aquarius, I listen to the wisdom of my ancestors and am open to new directions. My destiny reveals itself with each brave choice. Pisces, I trust my intuition but stay rooted in the present. Inspiration flows when I rest and recharge. So in terms of content creators, this week, because there's so much going on, is a gold mine for content creators, right, who want to mix wisdom, authenticity and the touch of a mystical. Mercury's contra-parallel to the North Node is perfect for sharing stories about crossroads, choices, ancestral wisdom that can be learned from, our family, and everyone's got their own brand of family crazy, right, emotional disturbances and psychological and spiritual trauma, not to dust it off, but it's true. So what can you learn from your past mistakes of your family members? Also stories about life-changing decisions. The Sun and Saturn and Mercury Saturn aspects this week allow us to talk about content that is really well researched, structured and practical. So think guides on how-tos or deep dives into serious topics, but don't ignore the Neptune influence. Creative, dreamy or spiritual content will resonate, especially if you ground it in real life experience. Share your own journey through confusion or healing. Your audience will appreciate your honesty, so content about where you may feel confused about your life path and journey, and where you've had to heal in your life, or where you are still healing in your life, because healing is an ongoing journey, right? And Mars is Chiron energy, is great for content about overcoming adversity, personal obstacles, any wounds you have around taking leadership, or any wounds around your personal transformation. So ultimately, this week it's best to fact check everything before publishing, mix practical advice with personal stories, use visuals or metaphors that bring both structure, which is represented by Saturn, and inspiration, right, represented by Neptune. Invite your audience to reflect on your own crossroads or healing journeys. Don't be afraid to show vulnerability this week. Rewards being authentic over being perfect, and above all, remember that your words have power. Use them to guide, heal and aspire, rather than destruct things and hurt things, and make sure that you're speaking from both your head and your heart. So ultimately this week is all about dealing with crossroads, bringing clarity and being inspired creatively. Trust in the process, honor your roots and keep your eyes open for new possibilities. The universe is supporting your growth, even if it feels a bit messy along the way. So now I'm just going to talk about the day-to-day aspects and how they add to this week's influences, right? So on the 14th of September, we've got Mercury making its exact contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node at 2:01 a.m. The Moon enters its last quarter moon phase at 11:33 a.m. The Moon's North Node goes direct at 11:40 a.m. and the Moon enters void of course at 3:10 p.m. and the Moon enters Gemini at 3:34 p.m. and Venus enters Leo at 7:48 p.m. So Mercury's contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node, as I said, brings mental clarity about our path, but it can cause overthinking, and it's best used for aligning our thoughts with our purpose. The last quarter moon helps us release and reflect, but it can also bring tension. It's best used for letting go of what no longer serves. The Moon's North Node going direct allows us to realign our thoughts and actions with our karmic path, the path we really want to take in life, but it can add to us feeling unsettled this week. It's best used for moving forward, right? The Moon going void, of course, is always good for self-reflection, and when the Moon enters Gemini, it motivates us being more curious about life and being more communicative, right? But it can add to the restlessness of this week. It's best used for learning and socializing, and Venus entering Leo increases our confidence and creativity in love, but it can add to the drama over the next 3 weeks while Venus is in Leo, right? And the best use of this energy is to be courageous in our self-expression and accept ourselves, So today is all about clarity, change and confidence, and Venus in Leo adds to us feeling, in love with ourselves and life. It's all about, being open to our unique light and loving ourselves and others courageously. So today, as I said, is about aligning, and this week actually is all about aligning our mind and heart and our soul purpose, and reflecting on our path and expressing ourselves authentically. It allows us to let go of old toxic patterns that are getting in the way of our authentic life direction, giving us the mental clarity. It gives us confidence in our self-expression as well as curiosity to be open to new ideas and new ways of communicating. But we need to watch out for overthinking, emotional drama, restlessness and indecision, and difficulty focusing on our day-to-day responsibilities, right? The best use of today's energies are to reflect on our life purpose, express ourselves creatively, letting go of what no longer serves us, and remember that's the key for this week, right? And spending time in stimulating conversations, using your energy wisely. In terms of our work, clear communication really is key, and expressing our feelings confidently in our relationships while avoiding unnecessary drama is good as well. So you can ask yourself today, where do you dim your light to fit in, and how can you be more open to your unique self-expression today, So, today can really benefit from you writing down your life goals and aligning them with your heart's desires, expressing yourself creatively through art, fashion or performance, and having a heart-to-heart conversation with someone you trust. On the 15th of September, Mercury enters Virgo at 6:37 a.m. Venus makes a biquintal to Neptune at 10:53 a.m. Mars makes a biquintal to Uranus when Mars is in Libra and Uranus is in Taurus at 12:41. Venus is in Leo and Neptune is in Pisces during Venus's biquintal to Neptune, and the Sun's contra-parallel to Saturn happens at 6:53 p.m. So Mercury in Virgo brings that grounding energy that we need, that allows us to focus on analysis, but it can make us too critical and perfectionistic as well. But it's a great energy that can help us with problem solving and work that requires our focus and is very detailed, right? Venus's biquintal to Neptune inspires romantic and creative visions, but it can cause illusions in love. It's best used for creative plans. Mars's biquintal to Uranus motivates innovative action, can cause impulsive behaviour, and is best used for breaking free from routines. The Sun's contra-parallel to Saturn brings reality checks and discipline, and this can feel restrictive, and it's best used for setting long-term goals. So today's energy, the 15th of September, mixes precision and care with inspiration. Mercury in Virgo is telling us now is the time, as we go into the last 3 months of the year, right, to focus on details. It wants you to use your mind to sort of like bring balance into your world, and it highlights the power of focused attention and having inspired visions, right, being more innovative in our day-to-day routine, perfecting our skills, learning new skills, inspiring others with care, mixing being practical with being, having vision. It's a day for refining, changing our methods while staying open to unexpected insights as well. We can benefit from applying our analytical skills to our dreams and aspirations as well. So ultimately, the increase in analytical skills, creative inspiration and disciplined focus can allow us to overcome the challenges of this week and this energy, which are overthinking, unrealistic expectations and impulsive actions and feeling restricted. The best use of today's energy is to organise, refine and spend time in creative visualization, try a new approach to old problems, set practical long-term goals in terms of work, in our careers. Paying attention to detail and being innovative in our thinking can really pay off today. And in relationships, balance practicality with romance, so love through thoughtful actions. So in terms of the question to ask yourself to really focus on that Jungian Saturn work, you can ask, where does your perfectionism hold you back from taking inspired action, and how can you balance care with being spontaneous? In terms of integrating this energy, make a detailed plan for achieving a dream, try a new technique in your work or hobby, and meditate on balancing structure and flexibility in your life. So on the 16th of September, Mercury makes a semi-sextile to Venus. At 3:59 a.m, Mercury makes a semi-sextile to Mars at 4:02 a.m. And Mercury is in Virgo, Venus is in Leo, and Mars is in Libra. Then we've got Venus making a sextile to Mars at 4:04 a.m, Mercury making a quincunx to Chiron at 8:50. Mercury's contra-parallel to Saturn is exact at 10:39 a.m. Venus's trine to Chiron is exact at 11:11. Mars's opposition to Chiron is exact at 4:47 p.m. The moon enters void, of course, at 7:53 p.m. and then the moon enters Cancer at 7:59. So the moon just stays void, of course, for 6 minutes. I think that's the shortest I've ever seen. I've seen like hours, but 6 minutes is the shortest, I'm sure. The sun enters Virgo at 9 9:18 p.m. Yeah, so Venus is in Leo, Mercury's Queen Cups to Chiron, Chiron's in Aries. We know that Mercury's just entered Virgo, right? And Venus is trine to Chiron, Chiron's in Aries. So today is a day of harmony, healing and new cycles, and Mercury semi-sextile to Venus and Mars brings balance for action and love, but it can add minor tension and drama to our relationship, so it's best used for creative problem solving in our relationship. Mercury's Queen Cups to Chiron adds to the healing this week brings. It can bring old wounds up, but that's really good, because what we don't know we can't heal, but what we know about we can heal, right? It allows us to be more compassionate in our communication. Mercury's contra-parallel to Saturn deepens our concentration and focus, but as I said, can cause pessimism, so it's best used for serious studying or planning or anything that requires you to be focused, right? Venus is trine to Chiron, and once again supports healing in relationships, and it's best used for love and acceptance, right? Mars' opposition to Chiron adds to the healing and makes us energetic and motivated to heal, but can cause aggressive reactions to pain, so it's best used for assertive self-care, this energy. The moon void, of course, is always good for self-reflection, and the moon in Cancer can increase our emotions and nurturing instincts, but can add to the sensitivity and vulnerability and increase self-criticism this week, and it's best used for self-improvement and helping others, So ultimately today's energy reminds us that it's all about harmonizing different aspects of our life while being open to new cycles. The sun in Virgo today marks a shift to, us being more practical in the way that we serve ourselves and others, and it's about refining, changing, improving our daily routines and finding purpose in the details as well, being more focused in our attention, seeing the power in doing so, being more thoughtful with our words and action, and reminds us to heal through understanding ourselves and others, and perfecting ourselves so we can serve ourselves and others better as well. So ultimately, today is all about nurturing ourselves and others, healing the relationship with others and ourselves, being more balanced in our communication. Negatively, it can bring tension to our relationship, increase our self-criticism and emotional sensitivity, and we can have aggressive reactions to pain and people overstepping our boundaries. The best use of this energy is to start a new health or work routine, have a heart-to-heart conversation, practice self-compassion and offer help to others, bringing that needed balance to our inner world as well, and honestly communicating our needs as well, and especially paying attention to detail in our work is really beneficial today as well. So in terms of integrating this energy, start a new self-care routine, offer help to someone in need in a healthy way, right? Not a toxic way. Practice accepting compliments without deflection. And the question you can ask yourself is, how does your desire for perfection sometimes wound others or yourself? And how can you be more open to imperfection as part of growth? On the 17th of September, the Sun makes a parallel to Mercury, and that's at 2:48 a.m. The Moon enters void, of course. Mercury makes an opposition to Saturn at 6:47 p.m. So today is a day of challenges, communication and clarity, helping us to align our thoughts and actions with our purpose, but also can add to the mental intensity of this week. It's best used for clear communication and planning. Mercury's opposition to Saturn brings serious thoughts and potential obstacles and can add to the pessimism of this week, and it's best used for routine and structured thinking and overcoming challenges. It's all about finding wisdom through challenges rather than letting the challenges stop us from gaining that mental clarity. We overcome our obstacles and balance optimism with realism as well by taking that practical action as well, finding practical ways to manifest our spiritual insight insights and bridging the gap between our ideals and reality, right? So it's about aligning our thoughts with our higher purpose in terms of the combined holistic meanings of today and dealing with real world challenges, right? And it's a day where we can have a lot of mental tests, but overcoming these obstacles can lead to breakthroughs, right? And we can overcome obstacles through disciplined thinking and aligning our thoughts with our purpose and, watching out for pessimism and self-doubt and keeping those in check and getting to the root cause of these. It can also bring mental blocks and feelings of feeling limited and restricted, and we can, have difficulty expressing our emotions because of this Saturn energy as well. So the best use of today's energy is to deal with complex problems, create a structured plan, spend time in serious study or research, and practice patience and persistence. Keep on going through the obstacles and strategic planning, right? And again, in relationships, it's important to communicate clearly and to sort of reduce misunderstandings, but also be patient when they come up as well. You can ask yourself, where do you let self-doubt limit your potential, and how can you use challenges as stepping stones to grow? So write down a challenge, something that you feel that you can't overcome in your life, and create a step-by-plan step to overcome it, doing research and different strategies, maybe listening to podcasts, books, or any other resources that can give you inspiration to overcome these challenges, right? You can practice expressing your thoughts more clearly and concisely. You can meditate on aligning your daily actions with your higher purpose. On the 18th of September, the moon enters its balsamic moon phase at 1:04 a.m. Venus makes a quincunx to Saturn at 12:34 p.m. Mercury's contra-parallel to Neptune is exact at 6:16 p.m. The Sun makes a quincunx to Chiron at 8:13 p.m. and Mercury's opposition to Neptune is exact at 11:01 p.m. So today is a day of release, change and inspiration. The balsamic moon helps release and prepare for new energy, right? We can feel low in energy, but it's best used for closure, letting go and reflection. Venus's quincunx to Saturn brings relationship or financial changes, but can cause feelings of lack. It's best used for realistic assessments of values. Mercury's contra-parallel to Neptune, as I said earlier, inspires imagination but can cloud logic. It can cause confusion and it's best used for creative thinking. The Sun's quincunx to Chiron, helps with healing and highlights what needs healing, so that's good. So, issues with our self-expression and identity, because we're talking the Sun, right, may be under the spotlight with this energy, and it's best used for gentle self-improvement. Mercury's opposition to Neptune increases our intuition but can blur the flats and make us ignore red flags and cause misunderstandings, so it's best used for spiritual or artistic plans. Ultimately, today is all about releasing the old and changing to new realities, balancing logic with intuition and finding truth beyond the obvious as well, finding truth in spiritual experiences as well as the everyday experiences as well, and balancing joy with responsibility as well, and seeing through illusions to the deeper truths. Letting go of what no longer serves your growth and opening up to higher wisdom, right? It's a day of spiritual and emotional reset as well that can increase our intuition and creativity and allows us to have a realistic assessment of our relationships and our spiritual growth, but also can add to the confusion and misunderstandings that can happen this week. We can feel inadequate or insecure, we can have relationship or financial stress and difficulty telling fact from fiction. The best use of this energy is to meditate or spend time in spiritual practices, create art or music, rethink relationships and values, practice self-compassion. Work that requires clear communication and fact-checking can do well today. And again, in relationships, it's important to be honest about your needs but avoid unnecessary criticism, because this can just add to the drama in relationships, And the question you can ask yourself today to help you really use this energy is, Where do you escape into fantasy to avoid facing reality, and how can you integrate your dreams and goals with practical action? So you can create vision board for your goals today, or strategic plans, have an honest conversation about expectations in relationship, practicing grounding exercises to balance spiritual insights with practical reality. On the 19th of September, the moon enters Leo at 2:36 a.m. Mercury makes a trine to Uranus at 5:53 a.m. and Mercury's in Virgo and Uranus is in Taurus. Mars is contra-parallel to Chiron, is exact at 6:17 a.m. and Mercury makes a trine to Pluto at 7:27 a.m. and Mercury's in Virgo and Pluto's in Capricorn, so lots of earth energy today. So the moon in Leo increases our creativity and self-expression and increases our ego. It's best used for confident and action and joyful plans, but just watch out for it's needing too much external validation and drama. Mercury's trying to Uranus motivates new thinking and sudden breakthroughs, but it can add to the mental restlessness of this week. It's best used for problem solving and being open to new ideas. Mercury's contra-parallel to Chiron energizes our healing process, so really good as we close down into the weekend for courageous self-improvement, but just watch out for defensive reactions, and Mercury's trying to Pluto deepens our mental focus, helping us uncover hidden truths, but it can lead to obsessive thinking. It's best used for research and psychological insights. So ultimately today is all about finding creative solutions that bring deep positive change. Being flexible to adapt to new circumstances and allowing yourself to think outside of the box and dig deep. It's a day for brave ideas and brave actions. It, can bring deep psychological insights, innovative problem solving and courageous self-expression, but it can also lead to mental overwhelm from too many ideas, so steady as you go, one step at a time. Use this energy to confront painful truths and resolve ego conflicts. It can also add to the restlessness and impatience that we can feel this week as well, so just watch out for that. Try and be as patient as you can and as open and loving as you can to yourself and others. This week is all about transformation, being inspired and transforming yourself and being creative, right? So in terms of our work today, we can focus on innovative thinking and deep analysis. In relationships, once again, we're being supported to be compassionate but honest as well, and this can lead to breakthrough in conversations. Even when there's been conversation breakdown before, you can really, make progress in conversations in intimate situations if you're open to it today. So, today you can write down your most innovative ideas and plan the steps to, implement those ideas, have heart-to-heart conversations that you've been avoiding once again, and try a new approach to a long-standing personal challenge. That's the best use of today's energy. And as we go into the last day of the week, the 20th of September, Mercury makes a quintile to Jupiter at 3:43 a.m. Venus makes a quincunx to Neptune at 6:21 a.m. Mars makes a quincunx to Saturn at 6:24 a.m. The Sun's contra-parallel to Neptune is at 10:19 a.m. Venus is square to Uranus is exact at 6:42 p.m. Venus makes a quincunx to Pluto at 7 p.m. today. The Sun's contra-parallel to Mercury is exact at 8:53 p.m. and Mercury's quintile to Jupiter is exact at 3:42 a.m. So yeah, there's a lot going on, right? So ultimately today is a day where once again we can have revelations, truths can be revealed. It's a day of growth and change. So Mercury's quintile to Jupiter, nice sort of energy that increases learning and optimism, but it can cause overconfidence. It's best used for increasing knowledge and sharing ideas. Venus's quincunx to Neptune brings romantic idealism, but it can cause confusion confusion in relationships. It's best used for spiritual or creative plans. Mars is quincunx to Saturn, tests our willpower and patience, can cause frustration. It's best used for disciplined action towards our long-term goals, right? The Sun's contra-parallel to Neptune is best used for spiritual practices and creative visualization, but we just need to watch out for that self-deception, right? As it blurs the line between fantasy and reality as well. Venus is square to Uranus, motivates excitement in love and finances, but it can cause instability. It's best used for being open to positive change. Venus is quincunx to Pluto, intensifies emotions in relationships, but it can trigger power struggles, so it's best used for deep emotional healing. The Sun's contra-parallel to Mercury aligns thoughts with purpose, but it can cause mental intensity. It's best used for important communications. So, as I said, today is a day of revelation. Hidden truths coming to surface with Uranus and Pluto in the midst, Relationships and values are in for shake up, a big change, It's about being open to exciting changes while staying grounded today and, being more passionate in our communication about our values and our needs. Really finding joy and happiness as we adapt to new circumstances, and it's all about balancing the thrill, the excitement of the new with lasting values, mixing the old with the new. So today's all about being open to change, but stay true to your core values. Increase your limits, while dealing with the necessary changes, wanting to try new things bring. It's a great energy for increased mental sort of awareness. We can have exciting developments in our relationships. It's great for spiritual inspiration and powerful insights, but it can add to the confusion in relationships, impatience and impulsiveness. As we deal with restrictions, it can add to the emotional intensity and jealousy of this week on the challenging end, and add to the power struggles, right? And we can have a difficulty telling reality from fantasy. The best use of this energy is to learn something new and share your knowledge, and be open to positive changes in relationships. Channel inspiration into creative projects and practice grounding exercises to stay balanced. So in terms of our work can benefit from innovative thinking and disciplined action. In relationships, be open to exciting changes, but communicate clearly about your needs and boundaries. You can ask yourself, how do you balance your desire for excitement with your need for stability, and what hidden fears might be holding you back from positive change? So ultimately, today and this week is all about trying new experiences that pushes you from your comfort zone, having honest and open conversation to yourself and others about your deepest desires, needs, wants and, goals, especially relationship goals. Create a vision board that balances your widest dreams with practical steps needed to achieve them. So that's the end of this week's weekly scopes from the 14th to the 20th of September. I'm Amani, your holistic astrological life coach. Take care and see you next time.